If you love small-town secrets, protective men, and love triangles that start with, "I'm just passing through," and turn into, "I might never leave," hit like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Now, this is how everything changed the week I moved to Maple Hollow. When my car finally rolls past the wooden sign that says "Welcome to Maple Hollow," where time still slows down, I'm convinced I've made a mistake. The road narrows, framed by tall trees and fields that stretch out like an old photograph. The GPS has been threatening to give up for the last 10 miles. My phone says no service. My city brain says turn back. But my bank account says you don't have that option, sweetheart, so I keep driving. I came here for one reason, to reset my entire life. One ugly breakup. One layoff. One too expensive apartment. One exhausted, over-caffeinated meltdown in a grocery store aisle. That was enough to make me say yes when Aunt Beth offered me her little blue cottage in a town I'd never heard of. "Just come stay for a while," she'd said on the phone. "Rest. Right. Figure yourself out. This town has a way of giving people what they need." I didn't ask what she meant by that. I just packed my life into the trunk of my car and drove. Main Street looks like it was plucked out of a movie set. Brick storefronts. A diner with a neon sign. A bakery with a painted window. People actually walk here. They wave at each other like they've all agreed to be part of the same story. I feel like I'm trespassing in someone else's memory. I park outside the diner because my hands are shaking and my legs feel wobbly. The bell over the door chimes when I step inside. The smell of coffee and something sweet wraps around me like a hug. Heads turn. Of course they do. Small towns notice new faces like storms on the horizon. I walk up to the counter trying to look like I belong. "Morning," the woman behind the counter says. She's in her 50s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense bun. Her name tag says May. "Hi," I say. "Can I get a coffee? And maybe a muffin? Or anything sugary enough to resurrect the dead?" She laughs. "Long drive. Long life. Longer week." She starts pouring. "You passing through or staying?" I open my mouth, unsure. "Staying, I think," I say. "At least for a while." "I'm new in town, we know," a man says from one of the booths. "Word travels faster than Wi-Fi here." I glance over. There are two men sitting opposite each other, and the air between them feels like lines drawn in invisible ink. One of them is wearing a tan sheriff's uniform. He's broad, muscular, early 30s maybe, with light brown hair, a clean-shaven jaw, and eyes the color of storm clouds right before rain. He's leaning back in the booth, but there's nothing relaxed about him. He scans everything like it might become a problem. The other man looks like he belongs in a magazine, not a diner. Dark hair, neatly trimmed beard, white button-up shirt rolled at the sleeves. Watch that probably costs more than my car. He sits gracefully, like he's used to big tables and people listening when he speaks. The sheriff lifts his mug in a half salute. "I'm Noah Blake." "Sheriff." The other man nods once. "And I'm Ethan Lawson." May leans over the counter. "He owns half this town," she says in a stage whisper, "and annoys the other half." Ethan's mouth curves. He doesn't deny it. I clutch my coffee like a lifeline. "I'm Ava Collins." Noah's gaze lingers on me. Eyes sharp but not unkind. "Where are you coming from, Ava?" "City," I say. "New job fell through. New life fell apart. My aunt's letting me stay at her cottage." "Beth Collins?" May asks. "Yes. She used to bring you here as a kid," May says. "You cried when she wouldn't let you have pie for breakfast." Heat rushes to my cheeks. "That sounds like me." "Well," Noah says, "welcome back. Things are quieter here than the city, but trouble still wanders in sometimes." Ethan glances at him, amused. "You mean you still find ways to be dramatic in a town with one stoplight?" Noah smirks. "Somebody's gotta keep your construction crews from blocking the roads." They lock eyes and I realize this isn't new. This is an old conversation with fresh lines. I finish my coffee under their twin gazes and escape as gracefully as possible. Outside, the sky is clear. The air is different here, cleaner. I get back in my car, drive past Main Street, follow the directions Aunt Beth texted me. The cottage is exactly as she described. Small, blue, white trim, covered porch, overgrown roses and a swing that creaks when the wind nudges it. I stand in the yard, feeling something like hope stir in my chest. Cute place. A voice calls from the road. I turn. Noah leans against his patrol SUV, arms crossed, sunglasses hooked on his shirt. How did you? He shrugs. You left the diner 10 minutes ago. I know all the rentals and family places in town. It wasn't hard math. Do you patrol everyone's front yard personally? I ask. Just the suspicious ones, he says. You driving an out-of-state car, looking like you haven't slept in a month, drinking coffee like it's medicine? That's suspicious. I narrow my eyes. You profiling my caffeine habits now, Sheriff? He smiles, a real one this time, softening his whole face. Just making sure you're settling in. You need anything, call the station. We don't get many new people in town. Thanks, I say. I'll try not to cause trouble. Trouble usually doesn't try, he replies, pushing off the car. It just shows up. He leaves me with that cryptic line and the echo of his boots on gravel. That night, I unload boxes and try to convince myself my hands aren't shaking from more than just exhaustion. The next day they post a flyer at the diner. Help wanted. Part-time librarian assistant / community events support. Inquire at Maple Hollow Library. It feels like the town is extending a hand. I walk into the library that afternoon. It's all wood and dust and soft light, with a big front window that makes everything look warmer. A woman in her 60s beams at me from behind the desk. You must be Ava. Do I have a tracking device I don't know about? I ask. She laughs. Small town. I'm Margaret, and we'd love to have you help here. We talk, and by the time I leave, I have a part-time job and a stack of books. When I step outside, a sleek black SUV pulls up to the curb. The tinted window rolls down. Ethan. Library? He says, looking amused. Starting slow. I like books, I say. They're quiet. Predictable. They stay where you put them. Unless someone else moves them. This town needed someone like you 10 years ago. He muses. What does that mean? He studies me. Someone who doesn't already have their mind made up about who's right and who's wrong here. Who said I'm not like that? I ask. You haven't chosen a side yet, he says simply. You will. Side of what? He smiles faintly. Get in. I'll show you the town from the top of the hill. I hesitate. Relax, he says quietly. If I wanted to do anything bad to you, I wouldn't have done it under library windows. That isn't reassuring, but I find myself getting into the passenger seat anyway. He drives up out of the town center, roads curving between hills and trees, until we reach a lookout point. The whole town spreads beneath us. Tiny houses, Main Street, the school, the church, the fields. It's beautiful, I say. It can be, he agrees. What exactly do you own? I ask, realizing I don't really understand his position here. Half of what you're looking at, he says. The mill. The rental units. The new housing development on the west side. The coffee shop. Some of the land extending beyond the ridge. So May was serious, I murmur. He glances at me. Is that a problem? Depends, I say. Are you the benevolent kind of rich or the terrible kind? He laughs softly. Depends who you ask. I think of Noah's annotated tone in the diner. Of the way he said construction crews like an accusation. You and the sheriff don't seem like best friends, I say. We wanted different futures for this town, Ethan replies. He wanted to keep it frozen. I wanted it to survive. Development versus tradition, I say. Something like that. He turns off the engine. For a moment, the only sound is wind in the trees and distant birdsong. Why Maple Hollow? I ask. You could live anywhere. It's home, he says simply. Even when I left, it stayed that way. There's a softness in his voice when he says it, something vulnerable. He turns to look at me. What about you, Ava? What are you running from? I swallow. My life, I say quietly. Or the version of it that wasn't working. Boyfriend, he asks. Ex, I correct. Who thought taking some space meant moving in with a coworker and pretending I'm the problem. His eyes flicker with something like anger that surprises me. He sounds like an idiot. He was very efficient at it, I say. You deserve better than efficient idiocy, he says. We look at each other in the quiet car. His gaze drops briefly to my mouth, then returns to my eyes. Something thickens in the air between us. I clear my throat. You should probably get me back before the sheriff thinks I've been kidnapped by the guy who owns half his jurisdiction. Let him think what he likes, Ethan says, but he starts the engine. As we drive back down, I spot Noah's patrol SUV turning onto the road below. Of course. His eyes meet mine as we pass. His jaw tightens. When Ethan drops me off at my cottage, Noah's car pulls up not even 2 minutes later. He gets out, hands on his hips. Everything okay? He asks. Yes, I say. Why? Because I just watched our town's reigning monarch drive you up to the Ridge Road, he says. And nothing good ever happens up there. We just talked, I say. Is that what we're calling it now? He mutters. My patience snaps. What is your problem with him? Noah's eyes flash. He's not what he seems. And you are. I challenge. He steps closer. Too close. I'm exactly what I seem, Ava. I protect this town. I protect the people in it. From storms, from drunks, from bad decisions. And you've decided talking to Ethan is a bad decision? For you, he says, voice low. Yeah, I think it might be. Why? Silence. He looks at me like he's trying to decide how much truth I can handle. Finally, he exhales. Because people who get close to him tend to get hurt. And I don't want that to be you. The words hang between us. You barely know me, I say. His gaze softens. Maybe. But I see how you look at this town. Like it's your first deep breath in a long time. I don't want anyone taking that away. I don't know what to do with that. So I just stand there, pulse racing, his eyes on mine, neither of us stepping back. The next week is a tug of war. Ethan stops by the library with donations for a literacy program. He invites me to a community dinner he's sponsoring at the renovated mill. Noah swings by the library under the excuse of checking building safety, and somehow we end up talking for an hour about books, childhood, the best pie in town. At the dinner I dress up a little, because it's been a long time since I felt like someone worth dressing up for. The mill is gorgeous, old brick, polished wood, string lights. People laugh, eat, drink. Ethan moves through the crowd like he was born to do it. When he finds me, his attention narrows. You clean up well, he murmurs. You sound surprised, I say. I'm impressed, he corrects. We end up on the balcony overlooking the river. The night air is cool, the lights reflecting in the water. Do you like it here? He asks. Yes, I say honestly. Stay, he says. The word hits somewhere deep. I wasn't planning on leaving yet, I say lightly. I mean longer than yet, he says. You're good for this place. You barely know me, I say. His gaze holds mine. I know enough. My heart stumbles. Footsteps behind us. Figures, Noah says. If there's trouble in this town, it's always near a balcony, a river, or Ethan Lawson. I turn. Noah stands in the doorway, hands in his pockets, expression carefully neutral. His eyes flicker between us, taking in the distance or lack of it. This isn't your jurisdiction, Ethan says quietly. Every inch of this town is my jurisdiction, Noah replies. Including balconies. I exhale, exasperated. You two going to fight over who gets to stand closest to the railing? Maybe we're fighting over something else, Ethan says, eyes not leaving mine. My pulse kicks. Noah steps forward, voice firm. Ava, you need a ride home? I brought her, Ethan says. I didn't ask you, Noah replies. They stare each other down. Two men. Two sides of this town. Two futures that feel like they're closing in on me. I take a step back from both of them. I can walk, I say. It's a small town, right? Safe and all that. Noah's jaw works. Not when you're at the center of a storm you don't see yet. Ethan's eyes soften. We're not trying to scare you. We're trying to make sure you don't get caught in the crossfire. Of what? I ask quietly. Of your history? Your feud? Your pride? Neither answers. They just look at me like I somehow became the most important variable in an equation they've been solving for years. I came here to breathe. I say, voice barely above a whisper. Not to be fought over like some kind of prize. Silence. Wind rustles the trees. Somewhere below someone laughs, oblivious. I'm not choosing either of you, I say. Not tonight. Maybe not ever.